Hi, I recently had the opportunity to work with the makers team at the NEC Birmingham, showing off the latest ScanNCut machine, which is the SDX 2200 Disney model. And while I was at the NEC, I met a lot of lovely people who told me that they'd got older ScanNCut machines. And the reoccurring theme was that they'd got the machines but they'd not been using them. People told me it was still in the box. Some people told me it was out of the box and they tried it but they were scared to use it, so they turned it off and put it away and they've not touched it. So in this video, and I think I'm going to do a few, so it might be a small series, I'm going to go back to basics. And I'm going to talk you through the settings on the machine, what they're for, and then show you how to make a little project. I'm going to switch my machine on. The first thing I would say is I'm using a CM900. So I'm going to say OK here. This is just telling me that the blade is going to set itself. If you've got, an older model, this should all work the same. The first thing that you're met with is pattern or scan. So I'm going to come to pattern. And then one other thing I would say is this model is Wi-Fi enabled, which means any patterns that I make in ScanNCut Canvas that I transfer over wirelessly will appear here. Also, if you've got the Wi-Fi model and you've set your Wi-Fi passwords up, if there are any updates for your machine, it will also show here. I think it usually shows as a little eye in a circle, like a little information icon. And that would be what you would, before you do anything else with me or following this video, you would update your machine. If you've not got the Wi-Fi machine, I did do a video back in 2015 showing how to download and install updates directly from the ScanNCut Canvas website, and I will put a link to that video either on the screen somewhere on the YouTube video, or I'll also put it underneath the YouTube video in the description box, so you can go and do your updates first and then come back and follow this. So what you're met with are all these icons. So within each one of these pictures there are more designs. So you can see over here on the right hand side this says 1 of 2, so that means there's more of these to show as well. So if I click on the arrow, you'll see there are more designs. If I click on the up arrow, I'm going back to page 1. So there are 9 sections from within this home screen. If I go into the basic shapes, again you'll see 1 of 12. So there are not just these 15 designs here, there are 12 more pages. So if I click on the downward arrow, it will take me to page 2 with more designs. And if I keep scrolling through, you'll see all the different designs within this section. So 12 pages. If I click it again, it takes me back to the beginning. I can always go back by using this back arrow to get me back to the other sections. So within this section, this is all kind of holiday, shapes, all sorts of things really. So within this section, you've got things like moons and stars and snowflakes. Again, you can see there are 3 pages. You've got leaves, flowers and leaves. So let's go back. This one is all food. Now there's no number here, so this is all that's in this section. There are no more pages. Go to the animals, again you've got 2 pages. So 2 pages of different animals. There are frames. There's no number here on the right hand side, so again these are all the frames. 12 frames ready to cut for you. Within this one there are 5 pages, so you've got tags, you've got book pages, all sorts of things, frames again, banners, corners, So you just need to click and play really. You can't do anything wrong, just always hit the back button. And if you're not sure, hit the home button and that will take you straight back here. Okay, so I'm going to choose something from the basic shapes and I'm going to choose this scalloped square. So once I've selected this shape, it's telling me that its preset size is 3.94 inches by 3.94 inches, and that's because I've got the machine set to inches within the settings. If I wanted to change that to millimeters, then I could come into the settings, I could switch it over to millimeters, say OK, and it will then tell me it's 100 millimeters by 100 millimeters. But I prefer to work in inches, so I'm just going to go back and I'm going to leave it at that. Now, this icon here is what you can use if you want to adjust the size, but you only use this if you want to adjust the size independently in its height and width. So by that I mean, if I just click the up arrow on height or width at the moment, it doesn't matter which, it will go up in proportion. So I've just selected it and it's gone to 4.25 by 4.25. It went up quickly because I was holding on to the plus. If I want to take it back down, I can just press individually and bring it back down. But if I wanted to make this a rectangle, so I want it taller than wider, I could click this icon here, which is the aspect ratio, and I could take the height up and it would only adjust the height. It's leaving the width the same, but it's just taking the height up. So I'm just going to go back and I'm going to choose that shape again because I want it as a square. So from here, I can also say if I just want to put one on my mat or more. So for now, I'm going to say I'll have 3 and I'm going to say set, and that's put the 3 shapes on this mat for me. Now this mat that you can see here is an exact representation of the mat that you will load into the machine with your card on to cut. So wherever these shapes are situated within this mat is where you would place your card on your mat that you load in. Okay, so I'm going to bring this one down out of the way for now. And then these 2 here, I'm just going to select one of them, it doesn't matter which one. And then coming into this icon here at the top left, which has got the square, the circle and the triangle, that gets me into some more editing options. So from here, if I select this icon again, this brings me back to the page I was at originally. What I want to do, I want to, using my stylus, push this shape up as far as it will go into the top left hand corner, so it's butted up against the left and it's butted up against the top, and I want to do the same with this one. And I'm purposely going to leave a little gap between them. Now I'm going to come into this icon here that's got the 4 triangles, and using this left hand arrow, because I've got this one selected, I'm going to bring it over until this edge of this shape overlaps this right hand edge of this first shape. And if you're not sure whether they've overlapped or not, you can go into the zoom button and you can see whether they're overlapped, and you can even zoom in even more. So I can now use these arrows to shuffle my page. I'm not moving the shapes on the page, this is just shuffling the view for me. And I can see that I've got them overlapped and they look okay. So I'm going to say okay. I could even scoot it back a little bit more that way and zoom in and just see if it's still overlapped. And it is, but it was better the other way. So let's go back one again and double check, and you can see that they overlap there. So I'm going to keep saying okay, and then what I'm going to do now, I'm going to select this red box. Now, if I select this icon on the right hand side that's got the square, the circle and the triangle, it will select everything on my page, and I'll show you. But that's not what I want. I only want these two selected. So I'm going to untick that, and I'm going to come to this first one. And this first one lets me tell the machine, look, I've got one shape selected. I want you to select another, but not everything on my page. So if I just drag this handle in until it's not selecting this one that's down at the bottom, I've just got those two, and say OK, it knows now it's these two that I want to do something with. So I'm going to say OK, and then I'm going to come to this first icon here, which is the weld icon, and that will enable me to weld these two shapes together so they become one. Now it's going to say to me, OK to weld, the pattern is irreversible, and it's giving you a picture of what it will look like when it's welded. If I zoom in, you'll see. So there's no overlap now of this left-hand scallop and that right. It's actually merged the two together, and I've just got these little shapes in the middle because they're the gaps that are formed by these little curves on the scallops, and that's what I want. So I'm going to press the cross, and I'm going to say yes, it is OK to weld. So that has now welded those two together for me, and this is going to form a shaped card. Now, because when this is folded down the middle, because I slightly overlap these two, when this part folds over here, this edge will not be perfectly scalloped because it's where they were welded. I'll show you what I mean when I cut it, and that's why I made this one, so that I can layer this one on top of the front and it will look like a complete scallop shape, which is what I want it to look like. So I can say OK, and then I can save this if I want into the machine. But before we go any further, I just want to go back into the settings and run through the settings with you. So if you click on here, obviously you've got your language, you've got 8 pages, you can see it tells you there. I'm in inches. The cut area is defined as just under 12 inches square. That's what you saw on the mat. The background I've got on dark, but you can put it on light or you can turn it off, and that is what you use to help you see placement of shapes on your mat, but I'll go into that in another video. So I'm going to go to page 2. The cut speed I have set at 5. Again, you can change it. I always leave it on 5. My cut pressure is on 2. Again, you can take it lower, you can take it into the negative. It's entirely up to you. Any number that you see with a black box around it is the default setting for the machine. So if you've fiddled around with any of your settings and you think, actually, I just want to take it all back to how the machine would be brand new out of the box, you just come into this wrench icon, work your way through your pages and put anything into a box, and they're your default settings. I'm going to take mine up to 5. My draw speed is 3 and my draw pressure is 0, which are the defaults. I'm not doing any drawing at the moment, so I'll leave those as they are. And then you just work your way through. If you want your machine to shut down, you know, if you get distracted and go off doing something and you don't want the machine left on all day, you can set this to tell the machine to, you know, shut down after an hour or 2. I have mine set to the default, which is an hour. The buzzer sound that you're hearing when I'm tapping, that's where you can turn it off if it annoys you. Seam allowance, if you want to put an outline around something. Mine I have set to the minimum, which is 1/4 inch. Again, you can take that up, you can do whatever you want. It will go into millimetres as well if you want to. Pattern interval is 1. This is used for when you put in a lot of shapes onto a mat and you want to get the best use out of the card that you're cutting from. So, you know, if you're trying to cut, say, 24 circles and you want them all to fit on your piece of card in the best possible way, if you have your pattern interval set at 1, it will automatically put all those shapes as close as it can together without, you know, interfering with the shape of the cut. So I would leave that as the default. 4 is your opening screen. You can turn it on or off when you first switch it on. If I've got mine switched off, but when you first switch your machine on, if you've got this on, it will just show you some images from Brother, some, you know, ideas, design ideas that they've done. Scanning and cutting, positioning adjustment, that's if you want to kind of like calibrate your machine, blade adjustment area, that kind of thing. I'll go into those at a later date. This tells me the number of my machine and the version I'm using. I've got my Wi-Fi set up here, so if you've got the Wi-Fi model and you've not, you know, paired it up with your home router, this is where you do it. And this just tells me that I'm, you know, in Canvas and what my login name is. So if I want to turn this into a quick card and I want to add a bit more decoration, what I can do from here is, this icon here, just going back to this icon here, this is where, if you've got lots of shapes on your mat, it will give you the best possible cut area for all the shapes. So if I choose this one, it's not doing anything. If I choose this one or this one, because I've only got 3 shapes, if I had a lot of circles, I could play about with these to get the best possible use out of my piece of card. So that's what that icon is. This is your background scan icon. So if I wanted to put a piece of pattern paper in on my mat and say cut, you know, this out from a specific area, this is where you would use your background scan, and this works in conjunction with this section here, so it will enable you to see what's on your mat against what you scan through. But for now, I'm just going to go to add. I'm going to come back to the pattern areas and I'm going to come into this icon. I'm going to come into this section and I'm going to scroll to page 3 and choose this kind of daisy shape. Now again, this daisy shape is just under 4 inches and I don't want it that big. So I'm going to make it 2 inches. So using the minus arrow, I'm going to take the measurement down to 2 inches. And I'm going to say OK and OK. And this time I'm going to say I want 2. And I'm going to say set, which puts them on my mat. I'm going to select one of them, it doesn't matter which. I'm going to come back into the editing icon. I'm going to change this one to make it smaller. I'm going to make it 1.75. So I'm going to come back into the editing icon and take it down. In fact, I'm going to make it a bit less. I'm going to make it 1.65 and say OK. So I've got one at 2 inches and one at 1.6. And if you're ever unsure, if you've got shapes that look a similar size, just select one and go into here and it will tell you the size so you'll know which one it is. And then vice versa, click on that one and you can see, oh yeah, that's my smaller one. So I'm going to say OK and then I'm going to come back to add. I'm going to come back to pattern. I'm going to go back into this section, back into this first section, and I'm going to go and try and find a nice leaf. And I'm going to use this one. Again, I'm going to take the size down. I'm going to make this probably about 1.75 in height. And obviously it's adjusted its width according. I'm going to say OK, OK, and I'm going to say I want 2 and set. So now I've got 2 leaves that are the same size. I've got 2 daisies that are slightly different sizes. I've got a base card and a matting layer. Now you don't have to do this, but I'm going to choose save and I'm going to save it into the machine's memory for now. And then it will come up in a minute and it'll tell me where it's saved it, and it's telling me that it's 000267 and I can say OK. So now if I hit the home button and say OK to delete all patterns, that hasn't deleted, it's in the memory. So if I go back to pattern, and this time I go to saved data, and because I save that pattern onto the machine, I'm going to choose the machine icon. If I hit the up arrow, which will take me to the last page, here is my pattern that I've just created with you and which I am now going to cut. Okay, so what I've done to save a little bit of time, I've put some pieces of card on this mat that are slightly bigger than the sizes of the shapes on this screen. So using the spatula, I use the back of it, or you can hold it like this and use this bit, it doesn't really matter. Just burnish all your shapes down on your mat to make sure that they're all fully stuck. And my mat is quite, you know, well used and could be losing a bit of its stick. So this is what you do to just burnish everything down. I'm going to open the front of my machine and I'm just going to position the mat there, and I'm going to turn you back round. So this is how you load your mat to make sure it loads in all the time. Slide your mat into your machine. There are little ledges on either side, so the edge of your mat goes in. Now on this CM900 and the previous models, it doesn't matter which way around you put your mat in, it's got arrows on both ends. But on the new DX models, you have to load the mat into the machine in the direction of the arrow. So I've just slid that under the rollers, and I'm just going to put my hands here where this arrow is, away from the roller, and I'm going to load the mat. Okay, now I am going to set my blade to about 5, because this blade is quite well used, so it's not, you know, necessarily as sharp as it could be. But you can do a test cut. If I say OK on the machine and OK again, I know that these shapes should cut on this blade setting, but if you were unsure, you can go back and go to add, and you can add a test cut. You can choose any shape you want, and I'll just choose a square, and it's going to put the tiniest little square on your mat. You'll say set, you'll have to look for it. Now I would always bring it somewhere where you can get at it. I'm just going to bring it down to the bottom for now. I'm not sure how well you're going to see this. Now what I'm going to do now, I'm going to use this background scan icon, because I want to position all these shapes onto all these bits of card that are on this mat. So I'm going to hit that and I'm going to say go. Now I can see all these shapes on here, but if you go into the settings, you can make the background lighter or darker. So all those colours now are lighter, which will, you know, make it easier for me to place these shapes on these bits of card. Having said that, this pale lilac piece here I can't see now, so I'm going to go back into my settings and make them darker and say OK, and I can see them better. So what I want to do now, I want to cut each one of these shapes from each one of these bits of card. So I'm going to put that flower on there, that one on there. The leaves I'm going to put on this green, but they're not going to fit that way because they're too tall compared to the width of the piece of card I've got on my mat. So I'm going to select one. I'm going to come back into the editing icon, come back into this icon with the square and the 2 arrows, and I'm going to rotate the leaves by using this arrow, this icon here. So if I select that, I can turn it 90 degrees, and if I select that one, I can do the same and say OK. So now I can position them, and I know they're going to cut on there. And then I've got my tiny little test cut in the corner here. And if I say OK and OK and cut now, the only thing it will cut will be my test cut. So although I know this is going to cut through, I'm going to show you what I mean. So I'm going to say cut, and I'm going to start the machine. I'm just going to move it back a little bit, and all as it has cut is my little test cut, and I can see that that blade is right for this card. So now I'm going to say quick cutting, and I'm going to go back. I'm going to choose this little test cut, go into this icon and send it to the rubbish, just so it's out of the way. I could have left it there from memory. Once it's done the test cut and you're happy with it, I think it will ignore it, but I'll just get rid of it for now. So I've just got all the shapes positioned on all these bits of card. I'm going to say OK, cut, and go. So I just want to show you that if it's cutting and something does not look quite right, you can press the pause button and you can always unload your mat. But I want to carry on cutting with this now, so I'm just going to press the pause button again. It's going to go back and reset itself, and it will carry on from where it left off. Okay, so that's finished. So I'm going to say OK, and I'm going to unload the mat. Now, you have a scraper, and you can, use it to get under the corner of your card and lift. The way I prefer to do it is just bend the mat slightly. If you start to bend your mat, air gets underneath it, and then you can start to peel it away. And you can still come in with your scraper if you want to. But this is just the way I prefer to do it. Now again, because this is a little bit, fiddly, I would bend the mat until it starts to lift. Because sometimes when you kind of go underneath, you can scuff the edges of your card, sometimes if it's stuck down well. As I say, my mat, is quite well used. And I usually prefer to pull the waste away first and leave my shape. And then I would always clean off all the bits off your mat and put your protective cover straight back on it. Again, rub it down. Mine isn't sticking as well at the moment because the mat's not that sticky. But always put the protective cover back on it because it will make your mats last longer. So I may have to poke out some of the little bits that are in the middle of this card from where I welded it. Some just came off on the mat. So now I've got all the elements to make a card. And I will do another video on how to do that test cut, how to work out what to set your blade. I know because I've been using my machine for so long that with this type of card, I know what to set my blade on and my cut pressure on based on how old the blade is. So this is where it welded the two shapes together. So I'm just going to fold that in half and burnish it with my bone folder. And then as you can see, because of where I welded it, I've lost some of the definition of the scallop. And that's why I cut this one, because this one I can layer up on top and the definition comes back. So I'm going to put this on some foam just to raise it up a little bit. I'm just going to use some Stampin' Up dimensionals, which are available in my online shop. And if you don't know what these are, they're little 3D foam pads that just give a little bit of height to your work. I'm going to position this now over the front of my card. So my card now looks like this, so I've got the shape back. And then just very, very quickly, I'm just going to give this flower a little bit of a bend with my bone folder. Same with this one. I mean, this is just very, very simple card making using shapes that are within your machine. But I just wanted to show you the basics because, as I say, lots of people told me at the NEC that they were scared to use the machines. So I'm just going to bring in some smaller 3D foam and put a little one in the middle of there. And I'm going to layer this one up. That could go on my card, and then I've got my leaves which I can pop in behind. So I think I'll put this one on first. I'll put another dimensional on the back of this. I'll use the bigger one. Put that there. Bring in some wet glue. Put a little bit of glue on the back of here. And just slide that one in. Press it down for a minute. Little bit of glue on that one. Push that one in. Just going to hold it down with my bone folder for a minute, just so it grabs. And then I could, you know, use a peel off or a sticker or stamp a greeting, but I've got a little card all made with shapes directly within the ScanNCut machine. And there it is, little card. What do you think? Sorry if the video's a little bit dark, I'll try and do something about it, but again, you know, it's autumn. 1 minute it's brilliant sunshine here, I'm getting glare, next minute it's dark. But anyway, please make sure you subscribe to my channel. Hit that bell notification icon. Leave me any questions or comments on this video if you want to see anything else. And look out for the video telling you how to make sure you've got the latest update on your machine, which, as I say, I did back in 2015, but you know, it is still relevant really. And then I'll do another video all about test cutting, how to work out what to set your blade for the media that you're cutting. So I hope you like that, and I'll hopefully see you in my next video. Thank you.